What's up, Cerebral NFL fans? My name is Steven Hyder, Gate City Sports Channel. I have a special guest tonight, someone I'm really excited to introduce you guys to, Mr. Justin Arth, quarterback, well, former quarterback now. He's working on becoming the title of professional quarterback. Justin Arth from Texas Wesleyan, correct?
Yep, that's perfect. Texas Wesleyan. Go Rams.
Justin, why don't you go ahead and let everybody know a little bit about yourself, who you are, and all that, the background information.
Yeah, so my name's Justin Arth. For those of you that don't know me, I've been a professional quarterback for about a year now. Kind of had a weird way of getting there. So from Stockbridge, Georgia, about 30 minutes south of downtown Atlanta. Puts me about 15 minutes south of the airport. So if any CFL teams watching know I can get on a plane in any minute and get on the plane. But, from this area down here, made my way to Texas after an injury kind of ruined my chances at playing Division I football at the D1 level. So had to go on to Texas, play NAI football. Loved it there for the 4.5 years, but had some ups, had some downs. And then now we're here. I got 2 degrees from it and some solid film and more opportunities coming out. So played some professional arena football with the Peach State Cats when I missed the NFL draft deadline due to COVID. And we can get into all this stuff kind of later on the journey when we talk about it. But no, been a hard, long journey and continuing to scratch and claw away. As soon as I turned pro, kind of ran into Tom House and started working with him. He's become a mentor of mine, and I'm forever blessed and thankful for him to be on my team now. And so we're going to kind of talk about some of that today. But run a small company called A11 Performance to kind of take what I'm learning with Tom House and use my stance as a professional athlete to not only have a personal brand to sell a T-shirt, hopefully pretty soon, or to sell a workout plan similar to the TB12 method, but to be able to help the next generation of quarterbacks or pitchers or any rotational athlete for that matter be the greatest that they can be and set them up for life for not only a on the field standpoint, but off the field. And I'm a person of faith. And so I take my relationship with Jesus Christ seriously. And so I want to pass that on to every single person that I train too. I'm not going to force them to make a decision or not, but to show them the love that I know Jesus Christ has shown me, and to be able to show them and help them on whatever their dreams and paths are. So
for all our community members that always love to ask me this question about where can I, where can I get some training in? Where can I get some working as a quarterback? I keep telling y'all, I love y'all, but I'm not coming out of retirement to coach nobody at this point in my life.
Yeah.
If you're in Texas, look up A11 Performance. And the myth, the legend right here himself.
Well, hey, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, and Fort Worth, Texas. So Atlanta's still my home, living with my parents, but at the same time, Dallas, Fort Worth's my home. Girlfriend lives there, and that's kind of my second home. So I've got places on either side, and so Dallas, Fort Worth people, Atlanta people, I'm always in to get work throwing routes or helping train some quarterbacks. So hit me up.
So backstage, we kind of began a discussion that was really interesting, and you've had a lot of experience working with a lot of named guys. You told me you've had the opportunity to do a little work with Quincy Avery, correct?
Yeah, 5 years. Last couple of years of high school, and then most of my time in college. Yeah.
And then you've had the opportunity to work with Tom House, which is the big wig on the East Coast and pretty much the big wig out there on the West Coast.
Well, the legendary man out on the West Coast. Yeah, he's a legend, absolutely. 75.
So, we were kind of having this discussion, and I really would love for you to fill in everybody in the audience about this whole holistic approach to quarterback play. Backstage, we were kind of talking about, that word has meaning. And at the same time, it's kind of like, what does the meaning mean? and it can mean different things depending upon who the coach is, the quarterback coach, the organization, and their philosophy. But you in particular have had some chance to kind of go through some of the information when it pertains to Tom House and, more importantly, Tom Brady. What does that mean? What do they mean when they say holistic?
Yeah, and so, okay, I'll kind of start off by kind of saying the same thing we were talking about earlier. Like, the holistic approach can mean so many different things. And there's too many quarterback coaches out there today that are trying to say, okay, the holistic approach means, okay, you have to do everything in your body, whether it's footwork need to be great, arm path needs to be great, the ground force production that you create needs to be great. And that as a whole, in terms of what you eat, how you condition, turns into this holistic approach of playing quarterback. Well, that doesn't take you further because you see so many guys that are so talented that never pan out, whether it's the Ryan Leafs of the world or, Jamarcus Russells that were so athletically talented at their position at quarterback, then they still flaked out in the NFL. And so guys start to take that further and say, okay, you don't need this holistic approach to just include the body. You need to include the mind. The quarterback's the hardest position to play in all of sports. And because you need to know what you're doing, what you need to read, which is very hard and all the pressure's on your shoulders anyway, then you still need to be able to tell the other 10 guys on the team what to do. And then you need to know what the guys on defense are doing. The 11 guys on defense know what they're doing. And then you now need to be able to manipulate what they're doing to have your way. And so you can start to incorporate the mind and how you manipulate defenses and how you get coverage tells by motioning or things like that, and your mental processes. How do you go through reads? And then some guys even have that and they can't handle the stress or the pressure of the position. And so then you start to now include you need mental emotional management. And that's where kind of like I've learned from Tom House, where in my opinion, that's kind of where the entire holistic view it comes from. It's your mind, your body, your soul, and everything that encompasses who you are is kind of that holistic approach that now we need to start talking about with quarterback play. So with Tom House, we talk about correct biomechanics and kinetic sequencing, throwing hard easy, essentially. So, everything starts from the ground up. The ground force you produce comes up through the kinetic chain into your hips, into your shoulders as they disassociate, and then you have a torso flexion, and the arm just whips like a towel. There's too many guys that throw with their arm rather than allowing the arm to just follow the path that your body's creating if you have correct kinetic sequencing. And that you see too many pitchers, outfielders, quarterbacks blow out UCLs, blow out rotator cuffs because they're throwing with their arm. And there's guys that can get away with it. One of my best friends, not going to name names, he throws. He just got drafted into the NFL this year. He's going to do great things, but there's things that he needs to work on because he's throwing all arm, and he fell in the draft a couple rounds just because of some of the issues that he may have there, and how they're like, okay, like he's an athletic freak. He's going to be amazing, but we look at him as a project because there's a couple things that he might need tweaking. But moving on from the biomechanics and the kinetic sequencing, okay, it encompasses what we eat. To kind of debunk a rumor, no offense to Tom Brady, I'll see you out in June in San Diego when I'm working with Tom. But the TB12 method is Tom House's plan and process just on steroids based on the age that he has. And so for me, I follow the TB12 method, more the Tom House method, where I still can eat strawberries and mushrooms and some of the things that Brady completely cuts out, although they're good fruits or vegetables or nightshades that are good for you. Brady cuts those out simply just because they promote inflammation in the body, and his body needs more. He needs more to recover rather than someone like me who's 23. He'll be 24 in June. My body can recover a little quicker, especially following the diet and nutrition tips that they give us. So we try to eat a holistic meal that encompasses complex carbs, that encompasses grass-fed protein, very similar to the Tom Brady method. The less legs, the better. So you're better off eating fish than chicken, but then you're better off eating chicken than beef. But again, it's good as long as it's kind of the grass-fed organic. Taking organic fish oil pills to kind of help promote growth in the body and stuff as well is something that we do. But the biggest change for me whenever I started working with Tom was the type of water you drink. And that kind of gets into kind of the mental processing that I'll kind of start talking about too. But I've been someone who's only drank 2 sodas in my entire life. I'm not a big fan of carbonated water, not a fan of alcohol and all that kind of stuff. And so it was never a problem for me to like cut out sodas or anything like that, like some athletes have issues doing. And granted, the 2 sodas, yeah, but see that, and then the two sodas I've drank in my entire life were Sprites when my mom forced me to drink it with a stomach ache in middle school. So I really shouldn't even count those because I never chose to drink it. But I mean, the type, I used to be a big Gatorade drinker, and in reality, it gives you electrolytes, but it's packed with sugar, and the sugar eats away at your joints. And that's why, for example, that's why Tom Brady doesn't eat strawberries. Or guys like Drew Brees don't have caffeine because it's a dehydrant. And so there's different reasons for the different dietary nutritional guidelines. But with the water, we could talk about the acidity of our blood. And so with Tom, I've learned that through in your bloodstream, you've got a pH level of a 7.5 pH that your blood has to stay or you die. So everybody's body is currently right now fighting to stay at a 7.5 pH level. So the higher the number, the less acidic it is. The lower the number, the more acidic it is. And you look at Gatorades, you look at Powerades, you even look at Dasani water. They're not that good. They're in the 4.0 range, which is very acidic. I mean, Coca-Cola and Pepsi is more acidic. I mean, they use Coca-Cola to clean off stuff. So I'm an Atlanta guy through and through. Love Coca-Cola, even though I don't drink it. But it's bad for you. I mean, they use it to clean things because it disintegrates everything it touches. So why would you want to put that stuff in your body? But in reality, if you drink alkaline water, like Essential Water is what we're really kind of partnered with over at Tom House Sports. I mean, drink the 9.5 pH water, and it will start to clear up your mental processing. You'll start to feel like you can focus more. And what that allows you to do is, as an athlete, especially, but even just as a normal individual, if your body's not focusing on trying to survive, and your body can now easily keep the 7.5 pH level of your blood, your body can now become like go in performance mode. And that's where you can be the most successful because your body's not focusing on survival. But then we add in the mental emotional pieces too, to be able to go in with that it factor, and then go in to a situation and be able to visualize going through reads, knowing what you're doing, and staying green in that kind of motion, kind of state that you see a lot of the Japanese and Chinese like karate fighters talk about. Like Tom Brady, for example. Tom Brady can walk through a gate into a football field, and just because he sees the green grass, he's green, and he doesn't fall out of the zone at all. So motion is the same as the zone. And the great thing about the zone is it's contagious. Tom Brady can go and dap somebody up, and he's green. Okay, you dap somebody else up, he's green. And then before long, you've got all 11 guys green, firing on all cylinders. They keep their focus. Some guys fall out of the zone and then have to get back in the zone, but Brady's all the time. He's green. And so to take that from what we need to look at in the film room to be the best quarterback we can be, to taking it on the field and be able to visualize and actualize this stuff, to make correct throws, to make correct reads with the great biomechanics that we're functioning with now. And then being able to handle the stress. I mean, being an NFL quarterback, being a CFL quarterback, heck, I've been an arena quarterback for a little bit of a year with 2 different teams. There's still pressure there. It's professional athletics. I mean, there's so many guys that are so talented, so great. And I even saw a tweet earlier today that was like, it was like a video of a high school quarterback throwing, and a guy quoted it by saying something like, these high school quarterbacks today are better than any of the starting or 95% of the starting quarterbacks in the NFL in 1995. And those are the guys that I'm competing with, and the guys that I will be competing with in a couple of years. And so you have to be at the top of the game, because if not, you're out the door. And so that kind of encompasses the whole holistic kind of approach and aspect to quarterback play, quarterback training, quarterback performance. That I've kind of learned through Tom House, and we can get into details on every single thing. I mean, I've got notes for days, and every single time I sit down with Tom in front of him, I'm picking something new from his brain. So I don't even have it all put together. I don't know it all.
I know, but three or four quarterbacks kind of come to my mind when I think of Tom House and like kind of the approach here, and thinking of holistic, meaning like the full encompassing.
Yeah.
And, from my knowledge is he started off with Drew Brees as the first quarterback he really worked. He had a shoulder. I think he was dealing with shoulder problems when he first.
Yep. It was right when he left San Diego. And Cam Cameron, a good friend of mine now too, bless his parents right now because he moved from California to North Carolina to kind of be with his aging parents that are dealing with some health issues. But Cam Cameron called up Tom and was like, "Hey, I got this spunky kid named Drew who just had a shoulder injury. They're telling him he can never throw again. What can you do with him?" And they sent him to Dr. Andrews, fixed him up, patched him up, but they're still telling him, "Hey, you're never going to be able to throw a football again." And Tom is like, "Okay, well, let's do this." Well, to kind of backtrack, Tom got his start in baseball. He was a relief pitcher with the Atlanta Braves and some other teams. Love his Boston Red Sox story. You'll definitely need to hop on a mustard call and have Tom tell that one. But no, he for the highlight of his baseball career was catching Hank Aaron's 715th home run at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. As a Braves fan, I absolutely love it. Love Tom even more just because of it. But he moved on. But again, if that's your highlight of your baseball career, you didn't really have a great career catching a home run ball from the bullpen. So he moved on, was Texas Rangers pitching coach. Well, he worked with Nolan Ryan when Nolan Ryan was 44 and threw his no-hitter. I was actually just out in Texas with him when the new movie Facing Nolan, the documentary about it, just came out. So if any of you guys are baseball guys, or even if you're not a baseball guy, Tom's in there. He talks about the same kind of kinetic sequencing that we have as quarterbacks. Definitely go check it out. It's actually releasing this week. But no, he started off there and worked with Nolan Ryan and a bunch, Randy Johnson and a bunch of different Major League Baseball greats. And Nolan Ryan's known for throwing a football because the only way to throw a spiral is to have perfect biomechanics. And that got him into working with Drew Brees and now Tom Brady, Alex Smith, and Tim Tebow. List goes on and on.
Trying to think how to phrase this because I don't want to throw shade on nobody, because there's a couple of quarterbacks that we're familiar with here in Philadelphia that I know one of them for sure has worked with Tom House because it's been reported. But Carson Wentz saw him last year, and he worked with Adam Dato in his past as well. Mm-hmm. We talked about guys come there for different reasons when it comes to the whole holistic approach. But we can see that there's, Tom Brady working on, kind of getting to what you're saying, the Randy Johnsons and the Nolan Ryans and, dealing with these older players who still have to throw a tremendous amount of pitches and things like that. Well, now you're getting a guy like Tom Brady where you're trying to endure and kind of make that career last as long as you possibly can. Now you're getting guys like Carson Wentz, who's a highly talented guy. I don't think I've ever heard anyone question the actual talent level, but, he's definitely seemed to have had some struggles here and there that are related and unrelated to football at the same time, kind of, it seems like, almost just being the guy judging it. And we know that, not that Jalen Hurts is confirmed, and I don't want to, we're not here to confirm anything like that. But we do know that Jalen Hurts brought up that, they were taking a holistic approach. He said that in his press conference to his offseason here. When they're setting up these different programs and they're talking about like the holistic approaches, because you talked about like that can be simply like, it could be working on your biomechanics. It can be, working on your ability to read, diagnose the mental acuteness of playing the position. It can be health and recovery. It can be so many things. How does Tom lay out all these different things for all these different players?
Yeah. So that's the great thing about Tom. He's a miracle worker, and he's just magic. And so one thing that Tom has, I've worked with Adam very, 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 very few times. I'm one of Tom's few quarterbacks that he actually still works with. Usually he'll see an NFL quarterback once, see him throw, and he's like, all right, go to Adam. Because Tom's actually really kind of sold all of his kind of football program stuff to Adam, and that's when Adam started 3D QB. But Tom, he's got a way of looking at you and saying, okay, this one thing is wrong with you, without even seeing the whole biokinetic sequencing of seeing little dots on your body and seeing you move through a throwing motion, things like that. Like, he can look at you once and say, okay, you're it, you're not. Here's what you need to work on. Here's what you need to work on, and go work on that. And when you come back, I'm gonna hit you with a 2x4 if you can't do it. But in a way, he's kind of like the old grandpa that you want to do it. You don't want to disappoint him. And so Tom's just got a way of of diagnosing things that I don't think anybody else can, whether it's mathematically or not. Like he can look at a guy and say, oh, he's 6 foot 200 pounds. Step on a scale. Okay, I'm 6 foot 201 pounds. Okay, yeah. Like, and so it's hard to really kind of diagnose everything, but it's just him. It's the it factor. It's just Tom.
Mm-hmm. So I know you've worked with a lot of guys that have been around Jalen Hurts. Mm-hmm. Have you ever met Jalen Hurts, and like, what is he like if you have? Like, what's he like as a person? Actually, like, one-on-one as an individual, if you've ever had the opportunity to meet him.
Yeah. So my paths have crossed with Jalen Hurts a couple times. Obviously, before I started working with Tom House, I was with his old quarterback coach, and still kind of his quarterback coach off and on with Quincy Avery and QB Takeover. I mean, and Jalen's an extremely humble guy, hardworking, doesn't give me the same type of vibes that I've had other guys like a Justin Fields give me. Like Justin's always rubbed me the wrong way. And I know that's just kind of the edge that he has. So I don't even take it personally. But Jalen's just kind of got this mentality of, okay, I'm here to work. What do I need to do to get better? And whatever I've got to do, I'm going to go do it. I mean, and that kind of comes from how his dad brought him up, down in Humble, Texas. I believe that's where he's from. And making him do powerlifting in high school and all these different things. I mean, and so Jalen's an extremely hard worker. He doesn't want to stop until he gets it right. And then my paths have kind of crossed with him too, with training over at Apex DFW, kind of where Patrick Mahomes is training, and we're kind of partnered up with a lot of that as well through Tom House Sports. That's kind of our big hub to send guys to in Dallas Fort Worth, and Sam Ellinger's there, and a lot of good guys there too. But no, I mean, Jalen, just personality wise, he's a guy that can win over a locker room easily. You step in the locker room, regardless of how he looks, the mentality's there. And that's what I think separates him and Carson Wentz. Jalen may not be as talented as Carson is, but Carson doesn't necessarily have that same type of mental fortitude that Jalen has, and Carson knows that. So if Carson's listening, he knows exactly, and he's working on that now with Dato and with mental psychologists and things like that. And I think he's going to be better for it in Washington. The biggest thing is he has kind of Andrew Luck syndrome. And a lot of people don't know this, but Andrew Luck internalized everything. He felt if the team wasn't able to win, he felt if the team was down by 20 and he had to do everything perfect to bring them back, he internalized everything and put so much pressure on himself that he crushed himself. And then at the end of the day, the reason why he retired from football is he never really wanted to play football. He was good at it, so he did it. He wanted to live on a farm with a family and take them to baseball games, take them to football games. And so the first chance he was able to get out, he did. And so I see a couple similarities in Carson and Andrew, just in that kind of mental fortitude. And it's something you can work on, but at the same time, not everybody's got it. And Jalen's one of those guys that has it. And so despite the not amazing success he's had in Philadelphia, I don't doubt that he's going to continue to progress. The biggest thing is how long are Philadelphia faithful gonna give him until the front office is kicking him out the door.
We're not really known for our patience, man.
Yeah. Oh, trust me, I know that.
We're very loyal. We're very, we're definitely into it, but yeah, we're definitely not probably the most patient fan base. I'll admit that right from the start. Mm-hmm. Just a couple of things. I know that you've definitely spent time working with younger kids, middle school, high school age kids, and when we talk about kinetic sequencing and we're looking at a young man who's throwing the football, what are some of the telltale signs you look for right away when you say, okay, something's out of sequence here, something's not quite right with the footwork? Like what are some of the first things that kind of stand out to you when you notice, like, okay, something, all right, we got to look at this a little closer now? Yeah.
So one myth to debunk, and this took me a while whenever I first joined Tom to get out of this, because this is what I was coached. Excuse me. You've got you see quarterbacks try to step open and clear a midline. Mm-hmm. Like if you're that is leaking so much power out of everything that you're doing. And so if they try to step open, I'm sitting there saying, okay, like this guy can improve. And then we can get into the biomechanics and the kinetic sequencing of how we need to throw a football. But in terms of footwork, if that's really kind of the first telltale sign, there's not really any other telltale signs immediately that say, okay, no, like this guy like is, I mean, and okay, let me say this. If you're stepping and clearing a midline, you can still be amazing at throwing a football. There's so many that are. But it's not the healthiest, but it's especially not the most powerful. And what you'll see guys like Patrick Mahomes, who can throw 95 just on a whim, like with Patrick, even though he does everything biomechanically correctly, if you had someone of his ability who wasn't throwing correctly, get him to fix one or two things in his throwing motion, and he's able to throw like 120, 140. And it's just little things like that can make you so much better. But then you move up the chain and you see hips and shoulders going together rather than hips and shoulders disassociating. One of the things like in our biomechanics lectures, and one's actually kind of starting now on the Mustard app, and I think Clayton Kershaw is going to be on the one tonight talking with Tom. But one thing that we talk about with a lot of our biomechanics lectures at pitching and quarterback camps is you see these little kids, whether it's Clayton Kershaw's kid, because we have a cute little picture of like 4-year-old, like Clayton Kershaw's 4-year-old kid throwing a baseball off the mound at a Dodger game. And so what you'll see is he's never been trained ever in his life to throw a baseball or to throw a football. But when he's sitting here in pre-pass going to throw, like your body wants to do the right thing. But you see so many guys get coached out of what their body wants to do when they first pick up a football or when they first pick up a baseball, because you look at Aaron Rodgers or you look at Patrick Mahomes and what it looks like, but you're not slowing it down to truly see the super millisecond by millisecond movement of everything. And so the two biggest tells then from moving up the chain, because it all starts from your feet and slowly moves up the chain, the hips need to disassociate from the shoulders. So you'll see the hips pretty much fired forward with the back foot with the plantar flexion. So it's kind of like your toes off the ground like that. And the hip is completely forward. It's that DAC drill you see. It's one of our drills, the whole DAC dance, whatever. And that's one of our drills to help kind of disassociate the hips. And so you want to keep your shoulders closed, if not a tad bit inside. And then once you kind of come on around, you want to get here, have your hand out in front like you have a cheeseburger in hand, and torso flex and eat that cheeseburger in hand. And Tom Brady's got a little method, and that I use it too, because me and Tom are very similar in terms of mechanics, but I think I compare most to Drew in terms of play style.
Sure.
Well, so you're not a
Pledge of Allegiance guy.
Well, I kind of am. So what Brady has is one of his tells is whenever he throws, he should be able to let his hand fall on his shoulder.
Sure.
Whenever he's done. And now you're not trying to touch your shoulder in the middle of throwing, but throw and then, okay, can you touch your shoulder? If you just relax the hand, and that will tell you if you're fully going to the hand. But one of the other big things with this hand is you see a lot of guys being taught to, like I said, open up and clear a midline with your foot to open up the hip, because you're thinking you're creating rotational power. Well, part of the thing in creating rotational power is you rip that glove or rip that front side in to try to rotate and throw. That's doing so much damage in here, and that's what breaks arms, whether it's baseball, football, whatever. And you're leaking so much power too. And so just sit and watch Drew Brees in his biomechanics. He strides closed. So his stride forward is closed. And the actual stride distance and length that we try as a quarterback is one of your feet in 0.17 of a second. So in 0.17 milliseconds. So if you can get one of your feet in 0.17 of a millisecond and get the hip started and get the plantar flexion to get the hip moving and dissociate the shoulders, and then keep that front side firm, that ball is going to zip out of your hand, and your hand's just going to whip like a towel. It feels like you're throwing the hardest you've ever thrown, and you don't feel like you've tried at all.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, there's always these small little detail things.
Yeah.
One thing that's always weird when you talk about, hip and shoulder disassociation, and it's something I normally see with quarterbacks, and I'll try to pay attention to pretty much stance. Like, where are you at on the field? How far are you starting to tail away? I kind of look to see the hips. I like to see if the hips are coming through and you had that disassociation correctly. And I do see that sometimes with guys that are struggling with deep ball accuracy. You can sometimes see that kind of happen with them.
Mm-hmm. And one thing to think about
in the NFL, though, I want to state that, guys, it's not as prominent. We're talking about younger kids.
Yeah. And unfortunately, one thing I will say before I'll say what I was really going to say here, one thing you'll see, unfortunately, is with a lot of these kids, a lot of coaches nowadays, they're going to clinics. They're doing everything the best way they know how. And so I don't think anybody's going out trying to coach this or this to kill a kid's arm. I don't think there's any malice there. But what they're doing, the mistake that they're having in terms of creating a program, is they're looking at the greats, or they're looking at the outliers, or even just the normal good quarterback of the decade or of the year, and trying to see what he does when you look at him in a game. And you're just looking at full speed reps. And you could take a look at like a pitcher like Tim Hudson, for example. Tim Hudson had this way of getting here, but you would never see him get here at the release of the ball, because you'd always see him throw the glove back out. So everybody's like, oh, you got to pull the glove and go like that, because you only look at it full speed. And so if you look at all these great guys in slow motion, they're here at release, and then their body takes wherever their body's going to go after that. And that's, I think, the biggest mistake. But the one thing I was going to say, though, is another way to think about it, and this is kind of a misconception in quarterback coaching. Everyone thinks that rotational is powerful, and as a rotational athlete, we are. Rotation is our power. However, it is rotational when you start in the ground to get the hips moving. You have to get linear to get the power through the kinetic chain, and then it has to get back to rotation.
So, guys, what we're talking about is quarterback play from the ground up is really what we're talking about. And a lot of times when it's described to younger kids, and probably even college-age kids to an extent, it may be some younger professionals, you'll see a lot of guys that are approaching it almost like they're, like, it's like if you get more torque in there, you could, it's kind of like almost like they think they're swinging a bat almost. And truth be told, it's more like a golf swing. It's a little bit more similar to a golf swing in terms of it. And everything needs to be in sequence with one another. That's the whole kinetic sequencing aspect.
Yeah, and what you'll find out too is swinging a bat or swinging a golf club is exactly like throwing a football. And so one other thing to kind of add to the Tom House Sports program, I don't throw a football all the time to be prepared to be an NFL quarterback. I throw baseballs. I play tennis. I go golfing. And so those are a part of my workout.
I'm a horrible part-time golfer.
Yeah. I'm pretty bad. I've got like a 15 handicaps. That tells you how bad I am. But it's a workout for me. Not necessarily I'm trying to go be on the PGA Tour.
Yeah. And, that's always funny, because if you think about it, like the Tony Romos and all these quarterbacks, a lot of them are golfers. Funny enough, they really are. A lot of them are golfers. And even, some basketball players trying to get that stroke down correctly. A lot of them they're golfers, to be quite honest. Yeah. Michael Jordan, there's a lot of those guys. So I want to steer us, we kind of covered the ground up aspect to quarterback play, but there's still this aspect of kind of, it's a cliche saying you hear people, they talk about all the time. And you'll hear them say, we got to get this guy comfortable, which to me can mean so many different things. But I think normally what I think they're talking about is a couple of things in play here. So if I want to get him comfortable and we're talking about versus pressure, then I'm talking about playing on time as opposed to off schedule. Yep. But if I got a guy that's not necessarily facing pressure and I'm still saying this aspect of like, okay, I got to get him comfortable, then I think we're talking about playing in rhythm with the offense. That's, kind of a quick explanation, guys, and I'll let Justin go into a little bit more depth, but, the concept of your progression reading, you're going to hit your rhythm step depending on the route that's being run and where the first read is and things like that. You hit your rhythm step, and then you're making an executive decision once you hit that rhythm step. Like, do I love the leverage I see here from the coverage, and can I manipulate it? Or Do I need to get to my gather step, hitch, and then look to my second read? When you hear like these cliche sayings, and I don't know if they still do that in coaching circles. I don't know if that's more so just TV commentating, to be honest, but maybe they do. Probably depends upon the coaching staff. There's still a few of us old school guys out there that like to use these cliches. But when you hear that and you hear these guys, they say, got to get them comfortable. Like as a guy who, you play quarterback and you played at a very high level. What does that mean to you? What in the world is that? What are they talking about?
Yeah, and so coaching staff still definitely say we need to get a guy comfortable. But that's kind of more from the aspect of getting him in the game, getting him comfortable with what's going on around him. And so whether that's like some guys like Kirk Cousins, for example, needs to hand off the football a couple times, needs to take a shot first before he's like, okay, like we're good. And then there's guys like Brady that all I got to do is walk through the tunnel. And so it's going to be different for every guy. But it's really just kind of getting the flow of the game going. So, okay, like, do I need a completion on a slant to kind of get my like in-game mechanics working and performance mode going, and now I'm in the flow state, and now, okay, let's rock, let's go. Or do I need one of those like deep shots? Do I need to like throw a 50-50 ball where I feel like completely terrible about it, but the receiver comes down with it, and I'm like, okay, it's going to be a good game because of this. And so it's going to be different for every quarterback. It's going to be different for every coaching staff. But there's some guys that getting them comfortable with the game is simply just getting them to know the offense like the back of their hand and having a mental process to go through in terms of reading. And so what you were saying about reading concepts and things like that, that's exactly how the NFL game still is. Guys are still talking, okay, what's your first read? What's your second read? What's your third read? What's your check down? What's your hot? And we're being quizzed on that in locker rooms and film room meetings all the time. You have a coach come up randomly, talk to you, be like, what's your read on?
Did he ever get you on campus?
Yeah, they get me on campus all the time. They'll get me in like at the cafeteria. They'll get me right before I'm about to start a weight room workout. Hey, what's your read on Ace 95? So I came from an air raid offense in college. So, it's very similar to what's happening in the NFL now. And I think that's what is going to continue to help give me a case of being a small NAIA guy and continuing to move up the ladder and get to the NFL and be one of the great ones. But in terms of mental processing, one thing from Tom that I've learned and started to put into my game is that visualization and actualization. And so one thing we kind of say at Tom House Sports is our processes are not outcome driven. And what we mean by that is a lot of processes now, whether it's starting up a YouTube channel or running a business or in school with grades, everyone's always focused on the outcome. Am I going to get an A? Am I going to get to 1,000 subscribers, 5,000, 10,000, 100,000, whatever? And we're always focused on the outcome, but no one's ever focused on the process. And so essentially we're process. Yeah. And so we focus on process and we don't give a crap what the outcome is. As long as our process is a proven process that has worked for other people, we can make and adjust the way that we feel like we need. And I'm not saying completely like throw out the outcome and say, okay, no, the outcome doesn't matter. All that matters is the process, because you still need the outcome as mile markers to tell you how your process is going and if you then need to change and adjust your process. And so for me in a game week, what I'll do is for my process, kind of let you in depth of what I've done with Arena, what I've done before these CFL and NFL workouts I've had. And it's allowed me to separate myself from other guys for having the high football IQ. The Drew Brees, Peyton Manning football level IQ is I would go in and I would watch film of a team the first time and figure out what coverages are they in based on down, distance, situation. And I'd map all that out. And it'd take me probably 2 times through watching a game to make sure I get all of it correct. And then I start to kind of create tendencies. Well, then I'll watch it through another 2 more times and say, okay, I know the tendencies of the defensive coordinator and what he's going to call based on the situations we're in. What are the tendencies of the defensive backs? What are the tendencies of the linebackers? What are the tendencies of the safeties? Is this safety going to put his right foot forward when he's in man coverage and put his left foot forward when he's in zone. And those are things that I learned whenever I was in college, kind of going up and down the depth chart. I mean, I had to be a scout team quarterback at times in my career. And so I was being told by my defensive coordinator in college that, hey, this quarterback, every single time he's handing off the football, his feet are straight. Every time he's throwing it, his feet are staggered. So do that every single play that we give you on scout team. And I was like, okay, I'm going to take that into my approach of figuring out what defenses are, because every player has tendencies. And so looking at those tendencies to say, okay, I can find this safety on the field, or I can find this corner on the field and know what he's going to do based on the leverage that he shows me, based on the defensive coverages that we all know and talk about, but at the same time, based on what his tendencies are. And that can help me manipulate something. And then you go through the flow of the game and realize, okay, I've burnt this guy 5 different times. He's going to be pressing even more. He's more likely to be burnt. Let's go back at him again. And so I'll take that through and knowing the tendencies of that, and then now throwing our play calls into it. Okay, what is our game schedule, or what does our game script look like this week? What are our first down plays? What are our third and longs? What are our third and shorts? What are our joke around plays? What are our shots? What are our hots and reads on each and every play, and go through it. And what I would do in college is I would just go through and say what my reads were. But with Tom House, what I've now learned is, and I think if you watch UNC Charlotte next year, you will see a quarterback who does this and does this at a very high level. And Chris Reynolds, a guy who I've spent this weekend working with, good friend of mine now, known him for about a year. And he's someone who really does this.
Not too far. I'm not too far at all. I'm in Greensboro, so.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's a guy who's set for a massive year. He had a good year last year, but he's going to have a massive year this year for that reason and his mental processes. But what we talk about now and what we've kind of come together with is what Breeze will do is the night before a game, he'll sit there, close his eyes, control his heart rate by his breathing, and sit here and go through every single play on the play script, drop back in his hotel room, in his house, wherever he's at that night, do the drop backs, move the shoulders, move to each and every read, go and he would do that for every single play and visualize himself in the game doing throwing each and every route, each and every read, and putting himself in every situation. Okay, let's just say we called ace 95. What's my read in ace 95 versus cover 1? Cover 5, cover 7, cover 2, 2-man, 2-zone. And what if they play drop 8? What am I doing? And he'd go through for each and every play and go through that. And he's mimicking the footwork, same speed that he would do in a game. He's visualizing everything. So then he's essentially playing the game before the game. And that's one thing that I started doing, and it's completely changed the way that I am. And it allows me to stay green and in the zone to where now I'm just reacting. I've done all the I've gotten rid of all the guesswork. I've done all the work beforehand. I've played the game before the game. So now it's the power of play. Let's just go have fun. You play better when you're having fun.
So I have a question for you, and it kind of deals with what we're talking about. Guys, we just want to state this, okay? Justin has had an opportunity to meet Jalen Hurts on a couple of occasions, but we don't know his exact processes here. But
yeah,
in his interview, his press conference, he did talk about this idea. What I thought it was more so like scheduling and time management, but he kind of talked about that. Like,
yeah.
What do you think in your opinion? Like, what does he mean by that? What do you think he means when he's talking about like the processes and, you know, like time management, scheduling, all that kind of stuff? Like, do you think that's more of a broader thing, or do you think he's down to the
especially with him saying like time management and scheduling, I think that's more of kind of like a broader overall management of life or of his workout schedule and things in general. But that could very well still incorporate into what he's doing. And the biggest thing is I know the people that are around him are helping him tremendously with the mental process of the game to where he can go in and play the game before the game. And if he's able to do that, he's going to continue to take the next step to being a great quarterback that Philadelphia needs.
Yeah. I mean, the way the young man carries himself for both you guys are around the same age, man. Like, That's an incredible amount of poise for your age, to be quite honest. I was in the military when I was around y'all's age, and I had poise because it was forced upon me, but I think we were a little bit wilder when nobody was watching.
Oh yeah.
but just kind of like, round out, if you want to talk a little bit about, your experience. You've been, taking up some workouts with some teams. You got the situation kind of brewing in the CFL, but I know you're hoping that works itself out. I know you've been kind of messing around with maybe trying to get into an NFL training camp or into some OTAs or getting, picked up by a CFL team. Do you want to talk about kind of the grind and the hustle and that aspect of like what it's like as you finish up your college career? And it's kind of like, okay, now what do I do?
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I could kind of go ahead and start off kind of even with the high school career. So had a really good high school career, had some Division I offers, broke my collarbone and went to an official visit at Georgia State. And 1 week after the broken collarbone, boom, offer pulled. ESPN and other people find out, oh, offers pulled, colleges start pulling. And then before long, all I had was a PWO at Baylor. And then that kind of fell through when that was the only college that I did not get accepted into because my ACT score was a 25, not a 26, which is still 25, still good in its own right, but had to get in as a regular student, whatever. Baylor's got high standards. But no, so I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing now. And luckily I was able to go play in an all-star game out in DeSoto, Texas. Texas Wesleyan was starting up their football program from absolutely nothing. They had a football program back in the 40s. The team captain went off to go fight in World War II, challenged the team to go with them, and the team went. So the program got shut down, and we were shut down for about 75 years, never got it started back. So in 2016, coaches handed me a card and said, hey, if you want to join in the fall of 2016, we can build something special. And then that got onto the college career. I mean, had ups and downs of starting early on and then getting benched and having to go play scout team because we had a D1 transfer come in, and then getting some garbage time there. And then continuing to move on to having COVID ruin your redshirt senior year and a chance to start and kind of get more NFL interest. When you had some teams looking at you, like, okay, yeah, you're pretty decent, you're pretty good. We want to see more of you. And then it all kind of falls apart. And then I'm like, okay, I've got to come back to school because our conference did something where we were like 3 games in the fall, 6 in the spring. And I was graduating with my master's degree in December of 2020. So I was like, okay, I made the decision, screw the NFL draft. I'll try to go to the 2022 draft, even if that means I've got to technically take a whole football season off because I've been playing in the spring. But came back, found out I'd have to take more classes. And because of COVID, budget cuts at the university meant that I wasn't going to be receiving the same scholarship offer that I had for the first 4.5 years of my career, and had to make the decision to go ahead and leave. Well, that meant the NFL draft deadline had already passed. So couldn't declare for the 2021 draft and had to go the undrafted free agent route. So played professional arena football when I moved home. First team I found in the Peach State Cats. Played 4 games there, ended up winning Rookie of the Year in 4 games. And was fortunate and blessed of my time there. Continued to kind of move up with NFL workouts at like Hub Football Camp, where I had some NFL teams reach out and say, hey, we like you. We need to see you develop just a little bit more, but we like you. And had about 6 teams. So I was thinking, okay, I'm going to be in an NFL practice squad or at least a training camp or something like that last year. And unfortunately didn't happen. And so you kind of continue to go through the ringer, ended up signing with the Tucson Sugar Skulls in the Indoor Football League, which is the highest level of indoor football that's possible. Spent training camp with them. But then CFL and NFL teams start knocking on the door saying, hey, we want to see you at these workouts. Hub re-invited me to their March 2022 camp, went there, had the 49ers take interest. Obviously, with them drafting Brock Purdy, with Mr. Irrelevant, that interest kind of gone away. And I mean, trying to see if my agent can reach out to some more NFL teams, give me some opportunities, because I know there's been some quarterbacks that have been signed for rookie mini camps that I've done really well against at these CFL tryouts. And a lot of the CFL tryouts have kind of said the same thing of, we love who you are, but I'm sorry, we've already got 8 guys on roster. So you're number 1 on our list to call if we need a guy. So it's a good place to be in, but you're not making money doing it, and you're not playing the level of football that you deserve and know you need to be playing. And so it kind of goes back to the whole process driven that I was talking about. Regardless, yeah, it's frustrating. It's discouraging to know that, yeah, your lack of film and playing at the NAI level may hinder your chances at playing in the NFL when you know you're just as talented as every backup in the NFL already. And I could rival some starters in the NFL right now, day one. But at the same time, I put those disappointments aside and say, okay, that's just going to continue to put a chip on my shoulder. And I'm going to continue to prove guys wrong and saying, okay, NAIA guys, especially at the quarterback position, can make the NFL and not just be the rookie minicamp invite every year or the training camp invite every year just to give somebody a shot. Which, by the way, that never happens. It's 90 of the best guys in the world at football. So none of these guys are scrubs that get in. But no, I mean, just continuing to work and train with Tom and the guys that I've got around me, and continuing chipping away at that process, because sooner or later, I'm going to get in. And so anybody out there that's watching, whether your dreams to go play any sport professionally or go be the best businessman in the world or be a fashionista, whatever your dream or plan is, like, continue going at it. You're the only person that can stop you. And you're the only person that can tell yourself to pay attention to what other people are saying. And so regardless of what other people are saying, focus on your process, focus on everything that you're doing, and moving forward. And I mean, that's something too that, like, Sam Shady, our at Shady Sports Network, commented. Yeah, the Arth Vader, that came from the Fan Controlled Football League tryout. I thought I was going to be in the Fan Controlled Football League. Had an amazing workout there, and apparently, talking to some other quarterbacks I've met at some CFL tryouts, I would have been in the league if I would have been to 2 tryouts instead of just the one. Sure. And so, you live and you learn things, but right now got some NFL and CFL interest and continuing to try to knock down doors. And so that's kind of been the process here. And hopefully you'll see my name on Sundays, and my goal is to be a Hall of Famer. And I think, hey, I'm 24 in June. I rival a lot of these NFL guys, and I think there's no reason why I can't play to 45 using the same stuff that Brady's doing. And hey, I can be a Hall of Famer too. Just need the opportunity.
Yeah. Sam, anytime, man. Like, come on, man. You know how many times you've written free articles for me and stuff, bro? I love you, man. Anytime you need me to plug your channel, you just let me know, bro. So I think it's really interesting, man, because, like, some of you guys I've had the opportunity to talk to, which is, it's absolutely awesome to talk to you guys and be able to pick your mind a little bit. It's great to see the way you guys, just the way that your minds function. And all you guys have dealt with a lot of kind of adversity here. I mean, I remember talking backstage to Max, and, Max telling me, like, the mental toll it took on him to be called college football's greatest bust. And I was like, yo, that's crazy, because I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I float on water. I walk on water and I've done no wrong. Like, I've certainly gotten frustrated with players. That dude stinks. And it's like, that guy's a world-class athlete, like, at the end of the day. But, I had these conversations with Max, and, and Max telling me about, like, I was called the greatest, bust in college football history. Like, that was published. He's like, my parents read that, he's like, I got family, I got friends, I've got, I'm like, it's a human being, and he's such like a poised, young guy. And then, like, he was talking about, he finally got his opportunity at Pitt, and he kind of gave me some insights that Kenny Pickett was probably going to do quite well. And I didn't see it at the time. I was backstage. I was telling him, like, you're crazy, Sam. I was like, there's no way, man. Or sorry, not Sam, but you're crazy, Max. There's no way. He was right. But, he was telling me, like, he gets a shot. He's at Pitt, and he ends up, I think he separated his shoulder there.
Yep.
And I was like, man, like, that's just a, you same thing, you're working on getting a D1 scholarship and offer, and then, something that's kind of outside of your control, of which you can really help. And
you're damaged goods at that point.
Yeah. Like, it's funny. We don't think of players like this, but in reality, man, it's kind of like, it's like we treat people like they're cattle a little bit. The humanity of it gets removed at times.
Yeah. The way I would think about it is kind of stick it in the sports realm still. We treat athletes as if they're trading cards, that, okay, or they're characters in a video game. They're never going to hear what we're saying. They're making millions of dollars. Their job is to perform. and I can do it from sitting on the couch drinking my beer. No, you can't. And the thing is, like, we have mental health too. And God rest his soul with Dwayne Haskins. He had some mental things going on through the toll that it took on him to be labeled a draft bust. And all the slander and shade that was being thrown at him. And I mean, like I said, guys like Andrew Luck internalize this. We're humans too. And what I found is, as an NAI football player that was kind of pushed aside by other people at points in my career, whether it was being called damaged goods whenever I was being recruited for colleges, or being told that I was a coach at 19, so you should go ahead and be a coach at 19, hang up the cleats, to other situations now where, yeah, I mean, teams are saying, oh, we love you, and then they pass on you when it's time to offer the contract. I mean, you got to be able to take those lumps and move on, but at the same time, like, you got to realize that we're humans just like everybody else, and I've been fortunate enough to meet some very famous people, but the only difference between them and me or you or anybody else is the fact that they've just been blessed to have the opportunity to throw a ball for a living and make a crap ton of money. And so, I mean, we're humans just the same. We read social media just the same. And I will say I've gotten better at not reading social media, only kind of being on social media to kind of do the advertisements that I need to do to try to get myself the NFL contract I deserve. But at the same time, like, this stuff hurts. And to see my buddy drop in the draft all the way down to the third round when he was probably supposed to be the first quarterback taken, I think that'll tell you who it is. But to see that and to see things that were being said about him and why he was falling, I'm like, this stuff's false. He's seeing this, and that's going to affect those things too. Yeah. There you go.
Guys, we're trying not to purposely say people's names for reasons, guys. There's reasons why we're trying not to do that. But you can read between the lines, guys. Yeah,
you can read between the lines. But no, I mean, we're athletes, and we're blessed to be able to play a child's game for a lot of money. But at the same time, that still doesn't affect what's going on in between the ears. And so the mental health aspect of it is very real. And I keep going back to the whole Andrew Luck situation. I mean, if he was stronger mentally, probably would have been the greatest quarterback to ever play the game of football. Sure. But again, I say that not even knowing Andrew Luck personally, and he may take offense to that. Sure. And so the thing is, again, we're athletes. We deserve to be criticized, but our character doesn't need to be detrimented just because we threw an interception.
Well, even I was talking to Max, and he was offered by Alabama, and Nick Saban flew out to his high school and offered him outside of his art class. And he was telling me this story, and I'm like, looking at him like, Max, I'm like, hey man, I'm not an Alabama guy. I'm an NC State guy. I said, even though I grew up just outside of Philadelphia, I went to college at NC State and UNCG. Like, I'm a Russ guy. I'm a Russell Wilson guy, I'd say Mike Lennon, but I'm not going to claim that. Yeah. Sorry, Mike. I'm sorry, bro. Don't come at me. I'm sorry. But, it was funny because he was telling me, he's like, he's like, I offered there, but he's like, I grew up a USC fan. He's like, Carson Palmer and, Reggie Bush and all those guys back in the day. Like, that was like my era, He's like, that was the era where, like, I was like a huge football fan. Like, so like that really swayed me. I'm like, man, it wasn't tough to turn down Alabama. And he said something to me that I have never forgotten to this. Like, it's still fresh in my mind. He said, Steve, you got to remember, they weren't exactly pumping out, NFL caliber quarterbacks at that time.
And in reality, they still haven't.
They got a couple that they put in the league that were long-term kind of backups. But he's like, Jalen Hurts was really the start of kind of this recent trend they've had. He kind of really started the motion of that. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of tough because, when you think of Jalen Hurts, he wins a national championship there, gets benched during the national championship game, has to come back and win the SEC for them. And
still hurts.
Transfer.
Still hurts.
And it's like the mental toughness that some of this stuff takes, like, to just brush it off and just keep moving on.
Yeah. I mean, because put yourself in Jalen's shoes. He got benched for Tua in a championship game, and everything that you have to feel in that moment alone, let alone you've got millions of other people writing the same press line the very next day that Tua Tagovailoa won the national championship game, which as Georgia fan, grown up Georgia fan, still hurts to this day. But at the same time, it's like, okay, like you got to be able to say like Jalen had to experience the actual benching and then experience the virtual benching by all the media and the press adding on to it, saying, okay, now it's Tua's job. It's Tua. And then the mental fortitude and again, speaks to his character and his work ethic that he went and worked for that opportunity in the national championship game the following year.
Sure. Absolutely.
For the same thing to happen, but reversed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's just so crazy. Just the roller coaster ride of some of your guys' career trajectory and just, I was listening to Gary Vee, and he was talking the other day about, he gets to work with a lot of athletes. And he said the one thing that struck him as being very odd that he wouldn't have known from the outside is just how many athletes, and he's not taking shots at athletes, but how many athletes genuinely do not enjoy their job.
Yeah.
They don't do it because they love it. They do it because it's a high income paying job. And don't get, even if you come from a very, I'm going to say wealthy, but say you come from a very stable, middle-class environment, like there's very few jobs are going to pay you this kind of money.
Exactly.
And he's like, he was talking about that and like that mindset and like kind of getting into the idea of the process. And it's harder if you don't really love what you're doing to kind of fall into the process, honestly.
Yeah. And one thing that I'll add too is I think, I'm for the NIL deals in college. I wish that I could have had some, would love some sponsors now, if anybody, any sponsors out there want to start paying me some stuff to advertise, but no, I think one of the downfalls of these NIL deals is, although it's like a guy like Quinn Ewers, he's someone I know and he's made bank already, and leaving high school a complete whole year early to make money. But let's just say, what if Quinn Ewers is one of those like all-time like college busts and never even makes it to the NFL, never lives up to what he is supposed to be, which I think he's going to live up to that. But let's just say he doesn't. He set himself up for life just because he's got $8 million already in his bank account as a high school senior aged kid who's a college sophomore. And so, but the unfortunate downside of some of this is I think you're maybe even going to see more people that are good at football but don't love football, or are good at baseball and don't love baseball, or good at soccer that don't love soccer, start to then make it to these levels just because it's the payday. Yeah,
it's true. There's the whole thing was Addison, I think, got offered the supposedly, should have had the word supposedly in here. Supposedly got offered a nice little NIL deal from USC from what has been supposedly reported.
Yeah.
I'm not going to call anybody out or make any allegations of tampering because I don't have the money to fight that.
Yeah. I don't either. So don't come at me.
Yeah. We're just reporting what we heard said, not that we have any information of it. Well, I really appreciate you, Justin. I thank you so much for coming on, talking quarterbacks with me, talking, mechanics and fundamentals and, getting into some of the, the things that happen behind the scenes when it comes to, playing a professional sport, the grind, the hustle. Like, you were telling me like, hey man, like at the end of the day, I'm out here, I'm hustling. I'm trying to make my dream become a reality, but at the end of the day, I got to make sacrifices too. I got to go in and I got to find a way of earning a paycheck. I've got to go in and find a way of promoting myself and get, and I think it's really good for a lot of our younger audience members to hear and to understand that, I don't know if you've ever listened to like Freakonomics or anything like that. I don't know if you're like a big podcast guy, but they did and I don't know if you ever listened to when they did that episode about baseball, and they talked about what the minor leagues can do to an individual, because baseball can bring you along longer than any other sport, really. And you can really hang on to baseball until you're in your mid 30s, and then you just got no practical job experience, honestly. So you're so far behind your peers. And then there's another side to this that I don't think a lot of people realize.
No. And the majority of people are falling into that. The majority of athletes fall into that kind of that situation. I'm seeing it with firsthand with myself and my journey thus far, but I'm also seeing it because I've got a lot of friends in minor league baseball that were not the first round draft pick that gets the amazing $3 or $4 million signing bonus or higher. I mean, and so like, unfortunately, the grind, unfortunately, there's a lot of people that can grind it out, but there's a lot of people that give up because the financials they can't make means. Like these minor league deals. Now, granted, the minor league deal stuff that I think is going through now is going to start paying minor leaguers a little bit more, but they're getting paid what my substitute teacher salary is on a yearly basis, and that's barely getting me through training and trying to run a business and traveling to the teams that want me. And so these guys are getting paid $20,000 or $30,000 a year to be a professional athlete, and their agent still wants a piece. Their trainers still want a large chunk. And a lot of these guys can't do it. And at some point they're having to say, like, I got to give up on my dream because I can't afford to do this. And it's an emotional decision to make. And I mean, and going from the NFL perspective, to even receive a retirement pension in the NFL, you have to be on a 53-man roster for 3.5 years. You have to have a 3.5-year league tenure on a 53 to get a retirement pension for 10 years after. What does the NFL stand for? It doesn't stand for National Football League. It stands for not for long, because the average NFL player plays 3 seasons. The average NFL player plays 3 seasons, and that's including Tom Brady's 20-something years, 23 years, where he's now 44, 45 playing. So the average NFL career is 3 seasons. So the average NFL player doesn't even receive a retirement pension.
And that's a very interesting subsection that one day, I don't know if we should get in that tonight because we'll be here all night, but it's a very interesting subsection when we talk about claims that get made afterwards and the way that those claims are handled by the NFL and some of the probably lesser known topics about the NFL that are.
There's a lot that we can talk about.
Yeah. I was listening to, I don't know if you listen to Pat McCaffrey, but I was listening to him and he was talking about drug testing.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about how he got drug tested like 8 times in one season. I was like,
yeah,
what the, like,
yeah. Well, to be honest, it's the same in college.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have a great game. Yeah, you're going to be pissing in a cup tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what he was saying.
Yeah.
He's like, he started feeling like if he didn't actually get drug tested the following weeks, that man must have had a bad game.
Yeah, it's an insult to your playing. Yeah, it's an insult to your play on Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely funny. Yeah, there's just a lot of interesting things when it comes to the NFL. Justin, I'll have to have you come back on again when you get some free time. I know you're a busy guy. You're trying to make this come true, but I'll tell you the story about the time I almost got into a fight with Josh Hamilton.
Oh,
story,
God, not Josh.
Yeah. True story. I really did. Like, took the bat to the mound and everything. Like, we didn't like each other.
Oh, yeah. I definitely need to hear that story.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate you so much, man. You came on for over an hour, man. It's really grateful of your time for you to do that. And, thank you. I appreciate you, Justin.
Oh, yeah, always. Thanks for the opportunity, Steve. And anybody still out there watching, haven't followed me on social media, go follow me on Twitter, that's Justin Arth QB, on Instagram at JArthQB11. Got a professional Facebook page too, Justin Arth QB, just like the Twitter. Got a YouTube where I'm doing some vlogs. My name right here, just Justin Arth. Search it. You'll see my A11 Performance logo and some vlogs. I'm kind of behind on editing, so be kind to me there. I've got a lot of stuff coming up and got to get better at the editing and vlogging life. But no, I mean, and then definitely go check out Shady's interview with Quantez Stiggers. I made some plays against him at the FCF tryout, but the dude's a dog. And so you can go check out my FCF highlights where I'm making plays against him. So, but yeah, I'm always game to hop on anytime I'm free, talk biomechanics, talk anything else, mental aspect of the game or anything. Like, I mean, we just barely touched the surface.
Justin, do you have your YouTube channel up yet?
Yeah, YouTube channel's up. I've got maybe 40 or so subscribers. It's just Justin Arth on YouTube.
Hey guys, following the interview, I'll give them to give me the actual address and I'll post it down in the description of the video for everybody. So
watch
on replay, just look to the bottom and you'll find his YouTube channel.
Oh, definitely. I'll send you all the links to all the socials, and follow me along this A11 journey, as I say. We're trying to get 1% better each and every day, and make it to the NFL like we deserve to be. So,
hey, all right, guys, we appreciate y'all so much for tuning in. We'll try to do this again. Maybe we can try to do a question and answer on as we get kind of a little closer to the season. If Justin's not with a helmet on and trying to get ready himself, then we'll see if we can't schedule something around that, guys, and maybe do a little Q&A kind of style to where you guys can ask for some insights about things that you've seen or heard, or, how we kind of view the situation, and we'll see if we can't maybe do something like that. All right, guys, thank you all so much. Appreciate y'all. I'll see you guys on the next video, which unfortunately is going to be in 10, 12 hours, guys. So I have to film something here shortly for you guys. It's probably going to be schedule related, just so y'all know.